Good morning. Welcome to the Farmers Branch Chamber of Commerce Chamber Chat, Episode 2. I'm Executive Director Grace Spees. Our objective here at the Farmers Branch Chamber is to be the voice of business to government. This has been a tough year across the board, especially for small and medium-sized businesses. Today, we are hosting our political candidates from Farmers Branch and others from the Northwest Dallas region. The topic is centered around economic recovery and each candidate's plan for moving the economy forward. As a chamber, we are a nonpartisan organization. All candidates were invited to attend, however, not all were available. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter and follow us on Facebook and LinkedIn for more chamber chats. First up, we have our Farmers Branch Council 2 representatives. Welcome Nic Rady and Michael Driskill. We'll first do a brief introduction. First up, Nic.
My name is Nic Rady. I've been a resident here in Farmers Branch for about 8 years now. I've come to really love and enjoy this community. One of the things that my wife and I always decide whenever we go out to eat or do business anywhere is first, where can we go in Farmers Branch? And if we can't find what we need there, then we'll have to go outside. We really do like to stay local. My daughter even has gymnastics in Farmers Branch, which is one of the most fantastic things that we can do for her, and our community is given back to us. Now, why am I running for this position? One of the things that I look at when I look at our city is how does our city cooperate with each other? And that means the citizens who reside here and the residents who come here during the day. The population of our city is almost 3 times larger in the middle of the day than it is at nighttime. And so we have a large group of people that our city serves that don't live here, but do business here, that work here, and that really provide a lot of the resources for those that are here at nighttime. And so when you look at any issue, whether it be, should we put a new gas station over here on this corner, or should we build a new building for the residents, we have to consider what effect does that have on the businesses around there. Are we competing as a city with those businesses, or are we doing things to bring those businesses in and flourish within our city to help the citizens thrive in the place that they live?
Yes, good morning, everyone. I just want to say thank you, first of all, and hello, and thank you to the Chamber. As a member of the Farmers Branch Chamber and being active in the Chamber in the last few years, it's a pleasure to be here. And before I answer, I'd just like to say I can't wait for this pandemic to be over and to be having our meetings in person. And I really miss, shaking hands, having coffee, meeting people, and I'm ready to stop doing it virtually, but this is the best we can do right now. But my name is Michael Driskill. I'm running for a council position in District 2. Since I came back to the U.S. From Germany in 2005, I've been very active volunteering in the community. I've been involved in many different community organizations, and the last few years I've served on the Planning and Zoning Commission, and it's been very exciting for me personally and also professionally just to see the development of the city and how it's grown. And we've become a real attractive community for businesses from all over the country and abroad, and for residents moving here from all over the place as well. And I just want to kind of shift from meeting on Monday nights with Planning and Zoning to Tuesday nights on the council, and just keep the positive work going, working with Mayor Dye and fellow council members.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your introductions. All right, first question of the day. As a business community, we believe actions speak louder than words. What have you already done so far that qualifies you to serve our business community in the government sphere? Nic, we'll have you answer first, please.
Thanks, Grace. There's a lot of things that as a citizen, it's very difficult that you'd like to be able to help the community with than what you can do as an elected official. I will give you one example to illustrate the kind of thinking that I have when it comes towards the business community. just recently, our recreation center was renovated. And when I was listening to some of the preliminary comments that were being made about why we need to renovate the rec center and do some things that was happening over there with moving equipment, one of the things that came out of the mouth of a staff member was, we have the Planet Fitness down the road that we compete with. And I pulled aside a couple of the council members at the time, and I also pulled that particular staff member aside, and I said, is that really what our government does? Does our government compete with our private businesses? As a council member, I want to make sure that those kind of things are the things that we're thinking about. What is our role of our government in supporting our businesses, not to compete with those businesses? Little things that our city does really has a large effect on if a business can flourish, or even if a business might end up failing. Another example is, I mentioned before how my daughter does gymnastics. She actually goes to 2 gyms in the city. She loves it. She's 4 years old, and she spends about 6 weeks in the gym because she wants to. And I was talking to those gyms when I realized that we have something like 6 different gymnastics gyms inside of Farmers Branch. And what I found out from the owners was a very small little issue. The parking regulations that our city has for a gymnasium versus something like Carrollton is the reason why we have such a high density of gymnastic gyms inside of Farmers Branch. Those things are the things that I look at and think about and discuss with our current council members, and will discuss as a future council member, to show how our businesses will succeed rather than be hurt by regulation and competing from our city.
Thank you, Nick. And next up, Michael, same question to you. Yes, the question again is, actions speak louder than words. What have you already done, or what qualifies you to be an advocate for business in the realm of government?
Well, I think you said it, action speaks louder than words. And one thing I'm proud of is that I show up. As you know, Grace and Alex, I've attended many of the chamber functions in the last couple of years. I think I attended almost all of the grand openings, ribbon cuttings, welcoming new businesses into our community last year. And I think that's one of the most important things, just to show up, meet the business owners, whether they're brand new companies moving here for the first time, listen to their dreams, what they're looking to achieve, and seeing how we can help them and facilitate that, to get them settled in the community, to help them, give them any informal advice or mentoring. If they need help in advertising, marketing, just learning their way around the city. Several times I've introduced people to other city staff members who can help them answer questions and help them establishing their business and getting it off the ground.
All right, next question. What is your economic recovery plan for our district? How do we get the Farmers Branch economy moving forward in a healthy way? Michael, I'm gonna actually peg this one to you first.
Okay, thank you. Well, number one, I think we have to remember that until 5 months ago, our local economy, the state economy, and our national economy was just humming. It was running full blast. And so I know there's a lot of negative thinking, and I'm kind of an economist, and I look at all the data regularly, and I come out of the financial world, but I think we're going to rebound. I don't think we're going to have a sharp V shape of a recovery. It's going to be a step forward, a step back, and it depends a lot on what sector you're in. But the city of Farmers Branch, supports the chamber, supports new businesses. I know Allison Cook in the economic development, she works hard every day with John Land and everyone else in the city staff, looking to bring new businesses, new investments here. And I've done my small part in that, working on planning and zoning the last few years, interviewing companies, listening to their plans, their development, their financing. And I asked them tough questions, about their business, how long they've been in their business, what their plans are, what they're going to do if they have a recession. And I think I've just got the business experience to give good counsel and advice. And I think obviously the big elephant in the room is the coronavirus. And until we can get the medical situation stabilized, it's difficult to predict. But I think being available, being accessible to talk to companies and businesses, answer their questions, and help them move forward is the most important thing I can bring to the table.
Thank you, Michael. Nic, you're up next.
All right. So there's a lot of ways in which we could approach this. At the beginning of this year, our city council actually had a $5 million surplus in our budget. And as soon as the virus hit, one of the things that I had petitioned the council to do was to supplement any kind of federal aid that might be given to our city with part of that surplus to help businesses out. Because as a citizen of the city, one thing you have to remember, somewhere between 75 to 80% of the taxes that are paid in our city that help run the things that are going on is due to our businesses. And that's one of the reasons that we really have to think about what it is that we're doing as a city with those businesses in order to give them the things they need to succeed. I was a little disappointed that that was not done, but again, you can only do so much as a private citizen right now. One of the other things that I've been thinking a lot about is when it comes to control. To give this example, restaurants. Restaurants are ordered by our county that they have to do X, Y, and Z, things like this. But yet they're under the umbrella of the health department of the local cities. Once we start sorting all this out, I think one of the things that really needs to happen is how are we going to have a very clear understanding of the hierarchy of where orders come from? Because as I was talking to some of the restaurants, they were saying, well, we're getting word from the state about this. We're getting word from the county about this. We're getting word from our local health authority about this, and things are conflicting, and they did not know what to do. That is a very bad position to put people in. I hate to bring it up again, but in gymnastics, I found out when the gyms were allowed to open, gyms as a group had to wear gloves when they entered a gym. When it comes to gymnastics, if you're on a balance beam, wearing gloves, that's a safety hazard. And so one of the things that the owner of one of the gyms was trying to work out was, what do we do to get an exception for gloves when it comes to safety issues? I was able to help her work with Mayor Dye in order to get an exemption that she needed so that she knew she was in the right to be able to make that exemption for safety.
Thank you, gentlemen. And next question. Most people get to vote where they reside. However, as mentioned, Farmers Branch is a bit of an anomaly and has a daytime population influx of 250 to 300%, meaning many people who own a business here or who are employed here don't get a vote in this particular election. How will you represent those constituents that are business owners who may not get to vote for you specifically? Nic, we'll pass this one to you first.
Wonderful. The number one thing that has to be done is, and to give a little extension of what that is, I know some people, they own land out in West Texas, they have ranches and farms, and they don't get a representative vote on the land that they own out there in the same way that businesses don't get a representative vote on the way that the land and or buildings or business that they own here inside of Farmers Branch. And having talked with many of those farmers that I know out there in West Texas, the one thing that I've always considered was, how do the elected representatives in those areas communicate with those people that are contributing to that area, helping that area flourish and succeed? And do they actually weigh the concerns of those without a vote in the same amount, or in some amount even, of those that do have a vote? In some cases, not so much. My hope is that to be a representative for the people, to make sure that the people have the things they need in the city. And one of the ways that we make sure that the resources for our citizens are here, and that we have a city in which everyone is loving and enjoying that resides here, is to listen to those who don't necessarily have a vote at the ballot box, but contribute. And that contribution needs to be weighed in the decisions made by the city on what is good, what is bad, and what direction do we want to go in the future.
Thank you, Nick. And next up, we'll have Michael Driskill answer the same question. Do you need me to repeat it?
No, I think that's okay. Yeah, that's a tough question. Our daytime population does explode, and we're grateful for that because, the businesses, a large and small, make up the overwhelming majority of our tax base, which is great for our residents. I think the best way to answer that is just to get out in the community, which I do, and meet people. I meet people every day. I run a business here, and I've been in business all my life, so I understand, you need to talk to officials and have your voices heard, have your concerns heard. I have people reaching out to me, by email and social media on different things right now, having questions about, can I do this or can I do that in the city? And I just want to have, open door, meet with people, get out into the community. Also through the chamber and other business organizations and volunteer groups. I meet business owners all the time, and I just want to be receptive and available for them to help them and listen to their concerns.
Thank you, Michael. All right, gentlemen, last up, I'm just going to open the floor for 3 or 4 minutes for each of you to give closing comments. Anything particularly regarding economic recovery. As we are the chamber, we are the voice of business, the government. How will you ensure that our businesses, again, are heard, protected? Anything you'd like to expand upon in that realm? Michael, we'll have you up first.
Okay. How we can help them recover through government? Is that kind of, okay. Number one, as I said before, until we can get the numbers of the pandemic down, which I hope we're on that road to recovery, businesses, we're all in uncharted waters. But I think the most important thing is to, again, be open, be receptive, get out and meet with people, talk with people, try to help them strategize. And the city has also, provided emergency aid. The government has had these PPP and loan programs. I know that's being debated in Congress. And most experts I listen to think that's critical for the economy, for the businesses, and for our consumers and our residents. And working in real estate, I'm well aware of people that are looking at maybe mortgage foreclosures. I hope that doesn't happen, but that's a risk out there. And the same with people that are renting. There are moratoriums on evictions, and we've had tenants that have been unemployed, and try to work with them to work out payment plans and help them as best we can. And I think that in city government, again, you have to be receptive to your community, your residents, and your businesses, and help them with the different issues that come up. And there's only so much we can do on the local level because this is a global pandemic that we're dealing with. And but I'm hopeful that we'll have a rapid recovery once we can get the medical situation under control.
Nick, you're up next.
There's so many things I want to say in 4 minutes. Again, my biggest concern when it comes to our community of business that we have, which is a very large portion of our city, is what kind of things are we doing as a city to go out there, talk with them, ensure that the city's direction is helping them flourish and not be restricted in what they can do. Allison Cook, I know that she does a fantastic job of going out and talking to our business community. There's a lot of businesses out there, and she's only really one person. She has got a team of people, but they, not everybody can be heard. And what we want to ensure is that when businesses are coming into Farmers Branch, and once they've been established, that they have a good line of communication with the elected officials, that they feel that they can talk to any of them. They can talk to them openly. They can tell them what is going on, what is good, what is bad, and give them suggestions that are heard on ways to help improve themselves and their fellow businessmen. Personally, I go out there and I talk to quite a few people, mostly the people that I do business with directly. It's not like you go into a business and say, hey, I'm a private citizen, I'd like to know how your business is working. But of the many businesses that I do have a good relationship with, I'm going to end with one more example of something I did when we were on the Citizens Bond Committee a few years ago. There were 17 of us that were on that committee. And one of the subcommittees was looking at a certain area of Farmers Branch where they were considering doing a private-public partnership to completely redo a building, which would have necessarily meant rents in that place were likely to go up. And some of those businesses that I did business with in there, I went to them and I said, hey, this thing is being talked about. My question to you as a tenant in this building that rents this facility, how is that going to affect you? And would you be for or against such a proposal? And very interestingly, to the T of the 4 people in that area that I had questioned, every one of them said, yes, I would love to see that happen. I know it'll cost me more, but I think it'll make my business better. And so where initially I was thinking that this might run some businesses off, after speaking with those owners and seeing that they were in favor of this, it made me feel more comfortable with the idea of possibly pushing some businesses out because the businesses themselves thought it's not. Those are the kind of things that we have to make sure we do as a government, that we don't just think about how can we make something better just to make it better, but how is it going to affect the people, and what is that going to do in a way that might ruin a life, or a business really, and which ruins lives. And so we have to make sure we have those conversations and we don't just think inside this one little box. We've got to think within the larger community of our businesses as well.
Gentlemen, thank you both for being here today. Thank you for your time. Again, we'd be honored to host you on another chamber chat so we can get a little bit more in on another chamber chat so we can get how you want to support business and move the economy forward. So appreciate your time. You guys have a great day.
Wonderful.
Appreciate your time. You guys have a great day.
Wonderful. Thank you, Grace.
Next up, we will have our mayoral candidates for Farmers Branch. Again, just to repeat, we are a nonpartisan organization. We did invite all candidates to be here today. Not all were available, but we do have both our mayoral candidates, Brenda Brodrick and Mayor Robert Dye. Mayor, we'll start with you. If you could give us a brief introduction.
Okay. Robert Dye, Mayor for the city of Farmers Branch for the past 3.5 years. This is my hometown. Grew up here. Love the place that I still call home and will hopefully call home forever. But, the past 3 years, in my opinion, have been a really, really good run. We've supported and passed several tax rate decreases. The next one is upcoming. I know it'll be a decrease because we've already set the maximum rate. We've also negotiated and worked with several different partners in communities where we had deteriorated relationships to build that back up and support more of our regional partnerships. And with that came the negotiation of our landfill that added more than $1 million per year in city revenue and also extended the life of that, which is a true benefit to our community and has helped out tremendously in terms of planning and where we're going in the future. We've also empowered, our city staff in terms of how are we going to seek grant funding to supplement the city's tax revenue by going out and finding funds that are available that lessen the burden on our taxpayers and allow us to do more with less, which I think is one of the things that I truly love in terms of trying to find ways to be fiscally responsible, especially for our community. I'm also currently, trying to lead the charge towards our DART station redevelopment. I think that's going to be a huge benefit to our city. That's something that we're working on now. We're in the middle of trying to find a way to choose the right developer that is going to build out an area that not only can our residents enjoy, but also our business community, because that's hopefully going to be an area with art, entertainment, more restaurants, places to eat and shop, something that we've kind of lacked a little bit here in the past, and something that can help bridge the gap, hopefully, too, between our west side and everything that's being built out over there on the center part and eastern side of our cities. And so, I've also been a huge advocate for our business community, especially during times of COVID and during this pandemic, getting out, meeting with businesses, finding different ways that we can help them, putting programs in place, and then also, putting my own money where my mouth is to try to inspire people to shop local, shop at our small businesses. And just during during this time, the way that we've been able to grow, the way that we've been able to bring new tenants into the city, such as Tenda Healthcare, Trinity, huge job growth, the ways that, Farmers Branch is, kind of in a true period of revitalization. I think it's just been a great run, and I've been excited to be along for the ride, and I'm excited for the next 3 years. Grace, I think you're muted.
Thanks, Mayor Dye. Thank you for that introduction. And we also have our mayoral candidate, Brenda Brodrick, here. We're going to take a minute for her to introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Brenda Brodrick.
You need to unmute. You muted yourself. There we go.
Ready? My name is Brenda Brodrick, running for mayor here in Farmers Branch. This is a very easy climate for me to step into as a candidate for mayor of Farmers Branch. The chamber is not happy with the council for wanting to reduce their funding from $40,000 to $20,000. I would fully support the full funding request of $40,000. Our business community is so incredibly important, and in this climate where they are an extension of the city to help our small businesses, we need to do everything we can to step in and help them receive the funding that they are requesting. Also, many citizens are unhappy with the way the council wants to obtain a certificate of obligation debt for up to $10 million for library renovations. I'm not totally against COs if it's used for an emergency or if it'll bring a return. For example, one time the previous council issued a CO for the Four Corners, and at that time the Four Corners were in a disarray and deteriorating, and so they went in and stepped in and did use a CO to build up that corner, and in addition then the other three corners were worked on, and now it's becoming a thriving four-corner area. So I'm not totally against a certificate of obligations, but to use it for a debt for the library where there's no financial return, I believe that city projects that are already built should be, there should be a budget amount for their renovations already established in the budget so that the city does not have to go into debt. Also, many seniors are unhappy at this time with the way that the council has treated them. They feel that they've been treated unfairly. They feel left out. They feel that they were not part of the decisions made in the city. And our citizens are so, our seniors are so hungry for somebody who will take an interest in them. And then also many residents are very unhappy about the policing task force. That implies that people are dissatisfied with our police, want to tell the police how they should change, and that shows a lack of appreciation. And so that's not very fair to our policemen who have served us so well.
Thank you both for the introduction. First question, I'll peg first to you, Mayor Dye, which you kind of covered in your intro, but for us as a chamber, as a business community, we believe actions speak louder than words. So can you expand upon anything beyond, what you shared earlier as to what you've already done to help sustain the business and the vibrant community in Farmers Branch?
So in terms of sustaining business, I think you got to look at it two ways. There's sustaining and building business, which we've been doing, during my entire term. But then you have to look at what happened when COVID hit in early March, and kind of the world came to a crashing halt. And what I did then was go out, and I went out with John Land. I've worked with Allison Cook, our director of economic development, and we went out to meet with businesses to understand how they were struggling, what they were facing, and what they kind of needed. And so we tried to figure out how are we going to find the funds or find opportunities to bring people in to keep their doors open. And then not only when the county judge shut everything down, but then also the governor, that was even a more difficult time. And so being able to get on the phone and talk with the judge about what we can do, how can we open, how can we help businesses during this time, I think showing that you have those relationships, that you have those connections that have already been built, that opens up so many more doors. And that allowed us to engage engage in conversations that increased what was going to be a $1.6 million funding for our CARES funding up to $2.6 million, and fighting for the fact that we have a much different population than was being represented, so that we had more dollars to provide to these businesses. But not only that, it was myself stepping up as well, and putting money where my mouth is, to find ways to inspire people to shop local and be at these businesses by providing families in need, or individuals that wanted to get out to support local businesses by saying, hey, I will fund the first $25 of your meals. I also held, a buy one, get one free for some of our newer businesses, Odd Muse Brewery, who had just opened up and the world shuts down, to get people to go and take part of their business. And so being engaged and having those relationships and being able to talk to them and see what they need to see how we can inspire, and not only that, but work with our community partners and our governmental partners to find a better way to advocate for more funds to keep people open. That's what we've kind of strived to do. And then, we partnered with our chamber as well to say, hey, how can you market to the small businesses? We have almost $1 million that we're going to allocate to bring business back to the forefront, to say we have funds to offer to help you get through this difficult time. But then you look at, how do you get creative? Our restaurants were shut down, occupancy at 50%. And so, I challenged staff to say, hey, how do we open up more space? How can we build these parklets? And so we changed the code. We opened up, we provided funds to allow, restaurants to have outdoor patio space where people can eat so they can get more customers. And I think it's being creative. It's understanding those needs and finding solutions that are going to help our business community survive and thrive. And, that's what I'm focused on. And, that's what we're going to keep doing, not only now until we get through this, but then, as we continue to build Farmers Branch in the right way for the future.
Thank you, Mayor Dye. Appreciate all that you've done to support the chamber and our community so far. Brenda, you're up next.
All right. So what have we already done to support the chamber and support the businesses? Well, I've talked to the chamber board members and gotten their insight and their input as to what needs to be done to help small businesses grow. I've also talked to Grace Spees, and she was very kind in explaining her position as a chamber director and what she needed to do to bring the chamber up to speed so that we could engage with our small businesses to help them and to get them the help that they need at this time. I've also been to the city council meetings where the chamber talked about these discussions and where the chamber funding was being approached and talked about. I support the $40,000 request that they need so that they are able to reach out to the small businesses and provide them what they need, the support, the ideas, the insights that they are ready to do to promote their businesses so that their businesses will grow. And I've also talked to business owners, listen to their ideas, listen to their innovative ideas, to their insights, to their concepts, to the ways that they've had to adapt and adjust. And so I've been out in the business community hearing solutions and how their ideas of how they can build teams, how they can do drive-ins, how they can create avenues of response during this time that are productive and successful and victorious for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Appreciate all that you're doing for our community as well. Next up, and we'll peg this one to Brenda first, and we'll follow up with you, Mayor Dye. What is your plan specifically moving forward to move us into a place of economic recovery and back to being a vibrant business community?
My plan for economic plan of recovery would be to create a playbook. So in case this happens again, we will be set in place. We will have answers to what should we do, what moves should we take. We need to formulate an economic rebound plan. If we expect or know that a storm is coming, what are the things that we can do? How can we weather this? How can we pull a team together to lessen the impact? We need to use whatever programs are available, people that are knowledgeable in technology to share their knowledge with others that are not, find out what's working for others in their field, work together, also become innovative. The outdoor seating idea is great, drive up operations, engage people with the Zoom methods of communication, video conferencing, working from home. I would engage the businesses. What do they need to do to feel safe? And their customers need to feel safe. There's kind of three ends of the triangle: the business, capital, growth. the federal government regulations, and public health issues. So all of these need to be addressed so that the customer is feeling safe and so that the owners of the businesses are feeling safe. How do we support both sides and go forward and progress in our business growth? And I would just also realize that our businesses are so important, and we will let the businesses decide what's best for them. The city is not so strict in regulating unless there are complaints. But our businesses are smart, innovative, they're negotiators and thinkers. And so we just get on board with what they're doing and support them in it. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Next up, Mayor Dye.
So in terms of recovery and what we're doing to help businesses get back on track, I alluded to some of that earlier, but I think it's creating a city in which people want to do business, in which businesses want to come to Farmers Branch, and we've seen an influx of that here recently. I think the amount of development that we have on the books right now, the way that we are revitalizing not only the eastern side of our city, but our Dart Station area, as well as the growth that we're experiencing on the west side, is a true benefit to our community. And the way that we are able to navigate this, not only through our budget and finding ways to, when other cities are raising their tax rate and are going to be, basically incurring more costs, not only on their residents, but on the businesses, we're finding ways to cut that because we are being responsible with not only how we're attacking our budget, but the way that we're building and the way that we're planning for the future. And I think businesses are looking for a community that when they're planning for the future, how are you adding assets to our community where we can shop, we can eat, we can be in the community where they have the tools and resources to conduct business, but do it the right way. And, during this challenging time, what did we do with our business community that helped them get through that? And as Brenda alluded to, we did take the steps. And, as mayor, a lot of those decisions fell to me in terms of how much regulation are we going to put on? Where are we going to pull back the throttle and say, hey, we want you to open, we want you to succeed. And so, what we're facing. Everyone's kind of explained it. We've talked about it. That we need to social distance, that we need to do some of these things, but you're smart people. It's the reason you're in business, and we're going to allow you to make smart decisions that's for the best benefit of your business. And we kind of allowed them to do that and didn't overregulate. And what came from that was a community that was more open than most. Our libraries are open, our rec centers, our pools, we had daycares, and we didn't have any problems in terms of people getting sick or COVID. And so it showed that we had a great plan in place, a great team that could not only think through what needed to be done to keep people safe and keep people operating, but do so in a way that was beneficial to all, not only our residents, but our businesses as well. And I think we're going to keep pushing forward with that, finding new opportunities to develop other areas, to add more opportunities for commerce, to work with our chambers, to work with our community partners. I think that's something that we're going to continue. I think it's something that we've done very well. And I think it's something that's going to continue to be a tremendous benefit to the community of Farmers Branch as we continue to revitalize and be one of the fastest growing and more progressive cities in the Metroplex.
Thank you, Mayor Dye. Next up, Brenda, if you could tell us how you plan to represent your businesses as constituents, even though they may not have a vote in Farmers Branch, how will you represent them?
Yes, hello. Yes, the businesses in Farmers Branch, they pay 76 to 78% of the general revenue taxes, and they don't have a vote, and they need a voice. And very good voice for our small businesses as well as the large businesses is the Chamber of Commerce. I would fully support the full funding request of the $40,000. 80% of our businesses are small businesses, and the Chamber advocates for them, they support them, they reach out to them, they ask them the questions. They want the very best for our small businesses, and the city staff is not supplied and equipped to reach all of the small businesses that really need an advocate. And the Chamber is a support group for them. It's a place where they can go and network, find solutions, teamwork, find out what's working for other businesses, and get on board, and they can collaborate together. There's three major functions of a city: the safety, the infrastructure, and business growth and retention. Because of the businesses in this city, we can support the police. We can have a strong infrastructure. 78% of our funding comes from the businesses. So it's just really important that we engage with our businesses, that we put them as a priority, that we help them and support them in any way they need. Yes, we'd like the chamber to be independent of our city, but we're not there yet. So they need our support. Also, we have to ask the businesses what's on their mind. How can we help you grow? We're here to help you. Because they pay 76 to 78% of our operating costs, it's really important to keep our businesses here and to retain our businesses because they're our lifeblood. They're the ones that they need an advocate. They need a support group, and we as a city need to do everything we can to stand with them and support them. Thanks.
Thank you, Brenda. Mayor Dye, any closing or further comments that you would like to add about your plan for the community of Farmers Branch, specifically the business community moving forward?
So, I guess, you don't want me to answer the previous question, or you just want to move on to kind of my closing remarks? Is that kind of what it seemed like? Trying to clarify here.
Yes, go ahead and respond to that and anything you'd like to further add. I feel like you've done a great job of really already holistically representing the community through this pandemic since you are current mayor. So go ahead and.
Can you restate the previous question then? My apologies.
Since most people vote where they reside, but they may not get to vote where they own a business or are employed, how will you represent your business constituents?
I think it's a multi-pronged approach in terms of how we're going to represent our businesses. First, you need advocacy, which I've done for the past 3.5 years in terms of meeting with numerous businesses in Farmers Branch in terms of what do you need, what are your challenges, how can we help you grow? You know, some of the businesses I think of are Scout and Cellar. I think of one of our homegrown kind of great businesses, Big Game Sports, who, because the sports world shut down, can't produce footballs at this time, which is their bread and butter. So they pivoted to mask, and they needed some regulations lifted. They needed certain things that allowed them to operate, which we kind of pushed through. And so hearing that, being that advocate and having that open door and be able to talk through those things, you know, help them find a new way to make money and survive during this difficult time. And I offer that up to any of the businesses in Farmers Branch. Anytime someone has wanted to be with me, I've opened up my door, I've gone to their business, I've met with them, you know, and working with our chambers, you see that partnership as well, you know, showing up and being part of that conversation to find ways forward. But you also have to look at, we have an amazing economic development team that is engaging, you know, with a lot of our businesses as well in terms of retention. What are we doing to advocate for new businesses to come in? And I think it's also the same asset of our chamber in terms of, you know, how are we dealing with our small businesses? What are we doing to provide opportunities and tools? And how are we showing up to show some support? And Grace, you know, I know in the past, you know, we've worked on, you know, how can we, you know, meet with other businesses? And I've told you numerous times and still will hold this opportunity up. You know, I'm willing to go with you at any time to meet with these businesses, to talk and say, hey, how can we get you involved? What do you need? What resources might we add? And, you know, in terms of what you can do going further with that, you know, it's allowing our code department, our inspectors, you know, working with the city in terms of planning on, you know, how can we just make it easier for people to do business to succeed? And I think that we found ways to do that, whether it's through some of our restaurants, whether it's through some of our other smaller businesses. You know, we've had challenges in the past where we've worked directly with them to find a way around something that was difficult, but they needed to thrive and survive. But I also think it needs to be focused on the development, the things that we have in play that are revitalizing a lot of our corridors, that are creating new spaces for businesses to come into Farmers Branch and grow that 4,000 business base to an even higher number. I know that they currently pay 77% of our tax base, and that's why they're so important. They're the lifeblood of our community. They're they what keep us going. They're providing jobs, they're providing opportunities, they're creating and innovating, and I think it brings a much needed presence to Farmers Branch. Just based on where we are in the community. And so showing our full support, being there and working with them and finding creative solutions, I think that's how we're going to help work with them in the future to pave a new way forward.
Thank you, Mayor Dye. Yes, you've made several very valuable introductions for us as a chamber. And for me personally, it's been a great support since I took over this role a year ago. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and just peg it right back to you. What are any closing comments that you have?
So my closing comments, I just want to speak to some of the things that my opponent has said in terms of some of the things that we're doing. And while she maintains that she's still a supporter of certain funding things, as far as I'm concerned, and from what has actually happened at city council meetings, no decision has been made yet on any funding. We've heard numerous times things have been tabled. We have more discussions coming up. We have 2 more meetings on the 15th and 22nd before we decide anything that's going on. And I know a lot of conversation is centered around the chambers, the funding, and not only that, but what are we doing for our nonprofits? And y'all are a vital portion of our community, something that we've supported year in and year out and found new ways to help you grow and move forward. And I think we're going to continue to support you all. Additionally, when I look at the library issue and the COs, in terms of what's going on in the community right now, and in terms of the opportunities we have from an economic standpoint, you need to realize that inflation is moving at a pace that's higher than the debt rate that we might be able to get, which in economic terms signals that this is a time to borrow and an opportunity to get more funds than we would need in terms of, we could issue bonds at a premium right now, which means we would get $8.6 million or $10 million of funds while only issuing 8.6 to be paid back. I look at those smart financial decisions and what we could be doing for our community. But I know there's works in play to kind of move us away from that opportunity. And either way it turns out, my focus has always been on this community is how are we going to continue to grow? How are we going to continue to revitalize? And how are we going to do so in a smart way that doesn't leave us in a bad economic position? And we've shown that over the last 3.5 years. And under my leadership, we're going to continue to show that for the next 3 years. I'm very focused on development. I'm very focused on revitalization. I'm very focused on improving our infrastructure and our parks and areas of interest. And, with the growth that we've seen the last 3 years, you're going to see more of that, but you're going to see it done in a way that benefits not only our residents, but the business community. And that's a promise that I will carry forward. And I think the relationships that I've built, the connections that I've made, the way that I've been able to lead this community, changing horses at this time, I don't think is a smart decision for our community, which is why I believe I'm the best candidate for us, not only now, but in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Dye. We appreciate all that you've done for Farmers Branch. That definitely is a response out in the community that you've done a great job being progressive and helping to think of new, innovative ways to push the community forward. So thank you for all you've done. Thank you for your service to Farmers Branch.
Thank you.
Brenda, we'll go ahead and pass to you for your closing comments.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert. Yes, I agree with Grace. Thank you for what you have done for Farmers Branch and for the development and for the way that you have handled the city. I think the city is ready for a change. From what I've heard from the constituents, they are ready to see somebody who will represent them in a more personal way, particularly the seniors. They feel hurt in a very big way. A lot of people are concerning the library just feel like they haven't been heard. So there's a lot of good that you have done, and thank you. I do wish to thank you for that. But a lot of what I'm hearing is that people are looking for a fresh face, looking for them to be represented in a different way, a more personal way, and I'm looking for every decision to be family focused, what's best for the family. And for people to, in general, just be happy with what's going on with the way that they've been heard and listened to. So that's why I think I will be the best candidate for mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Yes, it's been wonderful seeing you at the recent city council meetings, getting to know you over the past couple weeks and months. Definitely appreciate your presence in the community. It makes a difference, and I think it's incredibly important that we have good candidates that are willing to support our community, and that we have a healthy democratic process, and that there is healthy democracy in having 2 candidates. We want to make sure that the people get the choice that is the best for the community. So thank you both for your time today. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes.
got a beautiful smile.
All right, that is our update from our mayoral candidates for Farmers Branch. Next up, we have our candidate for House District 115, Karyn Brownlee. She will be coming on in just a moment with us. Unfortunately, Julie Johnson was not able to be with us today. However, we will be hosting her on a chamber chat individually. So make sure that you like and subscribe, follow us on Facebook. You can also visit our website at farmersbranchchamber.org. We'll be keeping you up to date, not just for the political season before voting happens, but ongoing as we are the voice of business to government. And Karyn is joining us now.
Hi there.
Good morning, Karyn. Thank you for
Yes.
joining us today.
Yes,
Go
my
ahead and give
pleasure.
us a quick introduction on who you are, what position you're running for, and why.
Well, thanks for having me today. I'm glad to be here. I'm Karyn Brownlee. I'm running for state representative of 115, which is in the northwest corner of Dallas County. It covers Coppell, Farmers Branch, Carrollton, North Irving, and a little bit of Addison, as well as Cypress Waters, which is technically Dallas. So, what else did you ask? You want me to tell more about myself? Okay.
Why?
And why I'm running. Oh, well, why I'm running. I have my entire life has been about caring for people. It's just what I love to do. I have been a school teacher and then I was a principal. So I was in public ed for 18 years. And then I was a consultant. I've also done a little ministry. My whole focus has always been about caring for the people. Well, in our government today, we need people who care about the people more than politics. We need people who are seeking solutions rather than looking at the problems and trying to find unity rather than division. I'm focusing on consensus rather than conflict. And so who better to focus on consensus than a leader who is trained in building consensus and resolving conflict rather than another lawyer who lawyers focus on conflict and promoting conflict, make their money that way. So we have a third of the House are lawyers. We have a lot of people who are very privately wealthy, and that's wonderful. But in terms of representing the real people, the small businessman, the small businesswoman, the people who have kids in school, just your average citizen here that is working hard in this country, paying taxes, we need a regular person to represent our area. And so I feel like since I've lived here for over 20 years and I was asked to run and represent our area, then I certainly stepped up to do that. As I said, my heart is public service. I have a proven record of public service, and we need proven leaders to be our public leaders.
Thank you for the introduction, Karyn. And that, segues perfectly into our first question. For us in the business community, we believe that actions speak louder than words. What have you already done and what qualifies you to be an advocate for the business community?
Well, as a principal, when I was serving in Coppell ISD, I had a chance to work with many people to bring people together for common goals. And I know that and build partnerships with people as well. So I know that that's a big part of it in representing businesses. Businesses build partnerships with other people. Businesses have to find common goals and work towards those and strategically plan in order to implement the goals and the action steps in order to achieve those goals. And so those are things that I've done as a leader. Working together with others, building partnerships with others where you have mutual benefit with other people, where there is gain for both, and working towards those goals with others, finding solutions and finding common ground. I think that we, again, focus so much on our differences these days, and we don't look at the common goal and the common ground with others. So those are things that I did specifically as a principal. I've also worked in business as a consultant, working on contract with people, and learned quite a bit about other businesses because I consulted with leaders across the country in various businesses, everything from healthcare to banking to various things. So people who had a message to share and that were leading their people and wanted some support and some advice on communicating their goals with their people. So I have exposure with a lot of different business backgrounds because of all of those experiences of working with lots of people.
Awesome. Thank you, Karyn. Next question. What is your economic recovery plan for your district moving forward?
Well, it would be nice if I had the authority to have an economic plan specific, to our district. But certainly my goal would be to work with the other legislators who are business minded on keeping our taxes low, on creating more opportunity, and on getting people back to work. That's something that we must do right now, is get people back to work. There's certainly been a crisis this year, it goes without saying. We have people that are still begging to go back to their jobs, begging to get their kids back in school. We need to look at, from a legislative standpoint, what is going to be our standard moving forward? What do we need to do constitutionally and legislatively to make sure that should we face something like this again, we have the right structure in place so that people continue to have a voice in the decisions that are made, so that we can keep our businesses open. So specifically right now, I'm of course running for office, and that has to be my focus. When elected, if I'm given the opportunity to serve, then I'll be working with other legislators who have ideas as well on how to get people back to work, how to adjust our budget next year. We're going to have a shortfall. We're going to have to address that as well, so that we can keep ourselves in the black. Texas has a great budget. We're a great state. We're going to keep it that way.
And as a business person, we definitely agree that it's important to stay in the black and to run a healthy economy. Next question for you. Most people don't get to vote where they reside. Or sorry, everybody gets to vote where they reside. However, they might not get a vote where they own a business or where they're employed. How will you represent those constituents as the business community?
Well, it's very important. I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of people who have businesses who are in that exact situation, who have businesses here in District 115, but maybe don't live in this exact area. Certainly, they have a huge investment in this area, whether they own the property or they're leasing the property. And if they're running their business here, then they're serving the people of this district. And so I think it would be really important to maintain the relationships that I've build more, obviously expand that. I would love to have focused town halls with different groups. And one of those groups could be business owners who have an investment, and that could be done in conjunction with the chamber, where we have opportunities to sit down and talk about those issues that are important to them, and see how they need to be addressed and what their opinions are about things. So I enjoy and have always just embrace the idea of getting input from people. While we have to take a stand as leaders and to direct and to have vision, and I do have vision for the future and economic prosperity, opportunity, lower taxes, smaller government, but in getting certain specific answers to certain questions and solving problems, it's so important to bring people together and get input from others and find out different perspectives. When we listen to each other, we learn. If we're not listening to each other, we can't learn. So you really can't lead. You have to listen to learn in order to lead. And so I would love to have that opportunity to continue those relationships, build more of those business relationships, and have the opportunity to sit down and listen to my constituents that are in the business community.
Thank you, Karyn. What other closing comments do you have specifically related to business owners and to economic recovery? The floor is yours.
Well, I think one of the things that's really facing us right now in this country in general is law and order. And we have to regain law and order in this country. We have a crisis, and it may not be so much right here in District 115, but it could be right here in 115. We have so many people that are rebelling against basic law and order. I just laugh thinking about, as a principal, if our students were to rebel against law and order in the classroom or in the school, well, then certainly we took steps to correct that and get things in order. And I ran a very orderly building. Very proud of that record. We need to continue to run orderly cities and districts and states. And we have some people across the country that are refusing to do that and to take control of their area. And that is affecting them, the business owners, and the taxpayers who live in those areas. People are at risk. They don't feel safe. People don't feel safe to go to work. people's businesses are closed, shut down. They're not allowed sometimes to reopen to the capacity that they would like. We need to look at those limits. Sometimes, there may be times that we have to have certain limits in place, but then the representatives of the people should have input into that, into how long those things last. But we have to have law and order in order to allow for opportunity and prosperity in this country and keep our businesses open.
Thank you, Karyn. And we will circle back with the other candidates, but how can people get in touch with you if they have comments, concerns, or would like to speak with you specifically?
Well, I would love that. And of course, this is just a little taste here going through a computer. And I love to visit in person with people. I've just really enjoyed this opportunity during this campaign to get to meet people and go to events. Please go to KarynBrownlee.com. It's Karyn with a Y. Remember why? Because I care. Karyn with a Y, Karyn Brown, like the color brown, LEE.com. That's my website. You can connect with me through email, Facebook, and all the other ways there. Send me information through the website. Would love to contact you. I would love to call you, visit with you, meet you. So please reach out to me, find me on Facebook, and I would love to be in touch.
Well, as a marketer, I definitely think that that's catchy. Why? Because I care.
That's right. Karyn cares. Remember that.
So awesome. Well, thank you, Karyn, for your time today. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate being here.
Once again, Julie Johnson, our current House candidate or representative, was not able to be in attendance today. As a nonpartisan organization, we are committed to bringing the democratic process and being the voice of the community, of the business community, to government. So once again, we want to ensure that you are registered to vote. There will be an event this Saturday in Carrollton. You can find that on Facebook very easily. And next we have a surprise guest. He is running for the Court of Appeals, District 5, Justice Whitehill.
There you go.
We've got to pop your name up on the screen really quickly. Thank you for making a visit with us today. You are on the screen. Go ahead and introduce yourself, talk about what position you are running for and why.
Howdy, y'all. My name is Bill Whitehill, and it is my pleasure to be currently serving you as a justice on the Texas 5th District Court of Appeals, up for re-election in November. Why? Because I love what I do. I love the law. I love everything about our court, which is so vitally important. Want to just visit with you a little bit about what the court is and what we do and why we're important and why we affect your life every single day. More information about this at whitehillforjustice.com. That's whitehillforjustice.com. Please visit that. If you like it, please pass it on to everybody you know. If you don't like it, just quietly forget about it. Okay, so how many people are familiar with the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans? That's not us. But we do a similar type function here in the state of Texas. In Texas, we have a 3-level court system. We have trial courts with intermediate appellate courts. That's us. And then we have high courts. You're familiar with the U.S. Supreme Court or the Texas Supreme Court. In Texas, we actually have 2 high courts. We're the only state set up the way we are. We have the Texas Supreme Court, which is the Supreme Court for all civil cases, and we have the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals, which is the highest court for criminal cases. Intermediate appellate courts like us handle everything, and then we split. We handle everything except for death penalty cases, and I'll come back to that. So, the sexy things that you see in legal dramas or the Perry Mason moments that happen on TV, or the great legal drama movies and all that. And those things happen in trial courts, and trial courts are incredibly important. But a case in a trial court decides issues between 2 or more parties, and those decisions only affect those people. But if somebody doesn't like what happens to them in a trial court, they have a right to come to us and ask us to review it and determine if an error of law happened that is big enough to require a different result. It could be a reversal and a completely different result, or a reversal and send it back to do that. So we don't try cases. We don't have the Perry Mason moments. We don't do all those exciting things. But what we do is we review the briefs that the parties file with us. We look at the records that come up from the trial courts, and we look to see if an error of law, like I said, an error of law was made that's big enough that requires a different result. Why is that important? Why do you care about this? I will tell you that our court, intermediate appellate courts in ours, are the dark matter of the legal universe. We hold everything together, but nobody knows we're there. And so how you say, White Hill, what do you mean you hold everything together? It's all about the rule of law and our constitutional three-branch of government system. The rule of law is simply the notion that everybody, the laws apply equally to everybody, no matter who they are, where they come from, who their families are, what their background is, how much money they have, don't have, what have you. And it's critical for a civil society to be governed by the rule of law. Otherwise, you have chaos in the streets. And so how do we do that? Well, our job is to make sure due process happened in the trial courts. That is, was there a fair trial? Did the judge that tried the case, handled the case, apply the law correctly? We're not concerned about finding facts and things like that. We just want to make sure that everybody had a fair trial. And so that's what due process is all about.
Question for you, Justice Whitehill. Your audience today is primarily members of the Chamber of Commerce. How is what you do, or what would you like to say to your audience that's the business community?
Absolutely. And thank you for that question, because that's exactly what I want to talk about.
Good.
If you're going to be involved in business, you need to have predictability and consistency, because a huge part of your business decision-making and investment decision-making is managing legal risk. Right? If you're going to invest a lot of money in a new project or buying a business, you need to be able to have confidence that you can look at the law that exists today, make sure that you're complying with it, doing everything properly, so that you don't get in trouble down the road. That if you enter into a business transaction with another group of people, that you can manage, and that's what your contracts do, is they manage legal risk and assign responsibilities. If you're going to spend the money to make that kind of investment, hire employees, buy plant and equipment, you need to make sure that the law that you anticipate that it is today is going to be the law later on down the road when a dispute comes into place. We live in a voluntary exchange society, right? I don't grow my own food. I didn't build my own house. I didn't build my own car. I rely on people to do these things for me. But why are they going to do that? Well, they're going to do that because they're going to get an advantage out of it, and I'm going to get an advantage out of it. But in order to encourage these transactions to happen, we have to have a predictable, consistent system of laws for people to operate in so that they can do that. For one example, financial intermediation. The whole point of financial institutions being people in the middle, to help people who have more money than they know what to do with it at any point in time, to get it to people that need money at that point in time. So banks, for example, they take in deposits and they make loans. Why are they willing to do that? Why are people willing to trust their money to banks? Because one, the laws regulating banks they think are going to be enforced, but banks need to have security that, or confidence that when they make a loan and they take out a security agreement, that their interest in that collateral is going to be respected and enforced. If we don't have laws that are enforced in doing that in that way, banks aren't going to loan money. If we don't have confidence in the rule of law, people are not going to engage in business. They're not going to engage in investments. We need to make sure that securities laws are followed so that people are not taken advantage of in their investments. You need to, if you have an HR department, you need to know how to manage your employees lawfully within the law, and that those rules are predictable and consistent. So all those things affect your business every single day. And that's what we do. That's what's important to us, because we write an opinion that says what we did and why we did it in our legal system. That becomes the precedent that everybody in our area has to follow. Right? So Texas legislature has written statute that affects every aspect of your day-to-day life. And for the Chamber of Commerce, there could be business organization code, the business and commerce code, all sorts of codes that affect your business. And so you want to have confidence that you can look at those and apply them correctly and safely. Well, when those statutes got passed, there were 181 elected members of the legislature were involved in creating that public policy. The governor has his or her signature on it. And that written policy, those statutes, will show up in every case we decide. Every case we decide has one statute in it that we have to interpret and apply. So it's what we say the 182 meant with that statute that counts, that then becomes the binding precedent that everybody has to follow. So it's really, really important that you elect people to our court who understand our very limited role. We're not policymakers on our court. We shouldn't be policymakers on the court. I'm not a policymaker on our court. Policymaking happens over in the legislature, and the enforcement happens over in the executive branch. Our job is to hold them accountable for what they do, so that when you send somebody to the legislature to create policy and write statutes, those words are the words that apply to everybody on a consistent basis. And that's our job. If the courts become active and start creating their own policy, then we're stripping the policy-making function out of the legislative branch, moving it over to the judiciary. But you didn't elect us to do that. And if we're not holding the legislators accountable, how do you know who really to send to the legislature? Everybody in the legislature and the House comes up for re-election every 2 years. They need to be accountable to the voters for the words that they came up with, and can't rely on the courts to do something different. That's really, really important.
Great. Thank you, Justice Whitehill. That was a very thorough explanation of what you do in the court system and how that interplays with business and also the community at large. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you for having me. Visit whitehillforjustice.com. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well, now we are up to our congressional candidate, seat 24, Beth Van Duyne. She will be joining us. Once again, we encourage you to participate in the democratic process. Be sure that you are registered to vote. You can do that online very easily. And again, just continue to follow us on the Farmers Branch Chamber. We will continue to host individual candidates and continue to talk about what we're going to do as a chamber and also how we intend to hold our politicians, whether even beyond elections, accountable to being representatives of business and to move this economy forward. Good morning, Beth.
Good morning. How are you?
Let me add you in and change your name. So go ahead.
Whitehill. Not this morning. Yeah.
Go ahead and give us a quick introduction, what position you're running for and why.
So I'm Beth Van Duyne. I am running for Congress in CD 24, which goes from Fort Worth to Dallas. I previously was on the city council in Irving for 6 years. I was mayor of the city of Irving for 6 years, coming out of a huge economic downturn, as we all know, in 2010, 2011. And then I went on to work as part of the administration for 2.5 years under Secretary Ben Carson at HUD.
Awesome. Thank you. And today's conversation has been centered around economic recovery.
Yes.
As someone who's running for a national seat for congressional seat 24, first of all, what have you already done and what qualifies you to be an advocate for the business community at a national level?
Well, I'll tell you, I've been working with businesses now for almost the last 20 years. As I mentioned before, coming out of a recession when I became mayor in 2001 of Irving, to give you a little bit of background, Irving is one of the top 100 largest cities in the country. We've got 7 Fortune 500 companies, but even more important than that is we've got over 6,000 small businesses that are in Irving. And my job was to ensure that we had economic prosperity and that we had job growth. So during the time that I was mayor, I worked with our businesses to bring over 40,000 new jobs to the district. We had one of the highest economic growth periods in our city's history, and we had one of the highest population growths in our history, in our city's history. And part of what we worked on was really, reaching out to the business community, getting them involved in what we were doing, working with them on workforce development, so bringing, the businesses to the table, CEOs to the table, but also our school district, our community colleges, to make sure that we are educating and graduating folks that we can hire right out of that. We worked with them on regulation reform, making sure that we had a positive business environment. And look, we were lucky enough. Our work was so beneficial to the community because 75% of our tax base was businesses, which means that a quarter of our tax base was paid for by residents, which means that 3/4 of the cost of police, or fire, or streets, or sidewalks were paid for by our businesses, which is one of the reasons why it's really important that we recognize that, respect that, and focus on how to bring jobs to the area. And we saw some magnificent results. And I think it's a matter of mutual respect, but it's also identifying that any community you want to have jobs, you want to be able to be successful, and having those kind of secure positions and opportunities available in your city.
Thank you. Next question is, what is your economic recovery plan to get the economy in Northwest Dallas moving forward again?
I think we need to focus on that. 6 months ago, answers to what your top priorities are might have been different. We were in a phenomenal economic time, and we're looking at some of the lowest unemployment numbers, in our country's history, in this area's history at least. And those were good. We need to get back there. We need to work on getting businesses back open. We need to look at getting schools back open. But this means coming to the table and having our businesses come to the table and tell us what they need. We've been really busy over the last few months and having roundtables talking about what some of the best practices are to get the economy back open again. Look at differences in what we've been able to accomplish this administration. Getting rid of TPP, where our focus was on bringing jobs over that had been in other countries and how to motivate those through policy changes. And, getting rid of TPP, we're really focused on bringing manufacturing jobs back. We need to keep that up.
Can you speak a little louder and maybe move
Sure.
closer to the mic?
Is that better?
Yeah, some of the people are commenting your sound is hard.
Oh,
to hear.
okay.
So,
Yeah.
There we go.
But, on policy issues, making sure that we're looking at manufacturing. And, manufacturing in this district is key. It perfectly fits in. It doesn't have to be huge, large footprints of businesses. But when you talk about bringing manufacturing jobs back, you're looking for every job that you create for a company that's for other employment opportunities that it provides in the area. So you have that 4-1 look, and I just think it's really important that's what we're looking at. But how you do that is working with various people who are finding out what their concerns are, finding out what we need to reopen. And again, we've been having roundtable discussions where we're inviting people to learn best practices. Veridesk is a great example. They're in the district, and we went over to their offices and we worked with our chambers to invite businesses over to learn about best practices and what they can do to open their doors. Working on work in education and what your school districts need to be teaching and what we can do to partner with some of those school districts, not just at the high school level, but also at the community college level, to make sure that we have the skill sets that people can get jobs and readily become successful as soon as they graduate. I think that's what it really boils down to. And on the flip side, you look at my opponent, and she's hostile to businesses, is quite happy with continuing to close our businesses and wants to work on ways of being able to keep our businesses closed. And I think that is absolutely the wrong direction. You want someone who is open to the opportunity, respectful, but also realizes the power that having job opportunities brings. And if you think about the last several months and who has been most hit by COVID. You know, your large box retail outlets are doing pretty good. You know, people are still going and they're shopping, you know, grocery stores, but it's the mom and pop shops that have been hit the most by this pandemic. And we need to do everything that we can moving forward to make sure that we're giving them the opportunity to open back up and be successful. These people have their life's work, all of their investments in these businesses. And we have to be, you know, very sensitive to that and very, very encouraging and supporting to make sure that we're doing everything that they can to give them the tools to open back up and make sure that their investments are worthwhile, because that helps everybody in our community.
Thank you, Beth. And next question. Not everybody gets to vote. They vote where they reside, but not everybody gets to vote where they do business, where they may be an owner, an employer, or an employee. How will you represent your business constituents that may or may not get to vote for you, but how can they reach out to you and how will you advocate for them?
I think this is what I've been doing for the last 20 years. I've been working with our business community and giving them a seat at the table where you're actually going out and having conversations. And again, you know, we don't have the luxury as public servants of just hanging out in our home. We have to get out and meet people where they feel most comfortable, which means getting out, having roundtables, inviting them to have conversations. And we've been doing that not only the last 5 months, but also the last 20 years. One of the first things I did when I became mayor was I created an economic development advisory council. We brought all sorts of resources to the table. For example, you know, we invited the CEO of DFW Airport to these meetings to make sure that if we had a need within the business community for direct flights, that we were working with our number one economic development key, which was the airport, to make sure that we were partnering with them. I think it's allowing an opportunity and being accessible. Listening, that's the best thing that you can do as a representative, is to actually listen to your constituents and recognize and respect that businesses do play a large part in a community's success. People want to live in areas where they've got job opportunities, where they can actually, you know, live out the American dream, where they can buy homes and afford to do what they want. And I think it's going to be really important for your next representative to have those friendly, long-going relationships with the business community as opposed to being hostile to them. If you think about right now in Texas, in our district, and the amount of energy jobs that we have, the amount of energy jobs, not just directly, but also indirectly with the airlines, with transportation. And you think about gutting that energy production. That's what my opponent is suggesting. That's what she has said, is she wants to gut energy production in the US. Think about how many tens of thousands of jobs that would affect. And not just the job numbers, but if you also think about the amount of money that puts into our schools and our education system, that would be gone. Those are important issues that I think voters and business people are listening to and are responsive to, and you want somebody who's going to respect and also represent them.
Thank you, Beth. And any last closing comments regarding economic recovery? Right, we're a Chamber of Commerce. Most of your people listening right now are usually in the Farmers Branch, the Northwest Dallas region. What would you specifically like to say to them?
I think we need to work on opening the economy back up. I think we need to look at empowering our businesses, empowering our individuals to be able to make the decisions that they feel are in the best interest of their family. And I think it's important that we focus on doing it in a safe and responsible manner, which means getting out, looking at best practices. I have had an opportunity to speak with businesses across the district on what they're doing to open back up. And some of it, it's wearing a mask, it's being, you know, identifying social distancing, it's making sure that you're cleaning surfaces. Those things can be shared, and we should be bringing businesses together to do that. But you've got quite a difference in people that you can vote for right now. You can have someone who is pro-business, who recognizes what businesses, what job opportunities, what economic growth brings to a region, or you have an opponent who is completely hostile to that and has absolutely no clue what it takes to come out of a recession. I think it's a stark difference, and I'm really disappointed that she's not here today to actually be able to talk about these points. Because again, as a representative, that's our job. Our job is to get out. It's to allow people an opportunity to hear what we stand for, but it's also an opportunity to listen. And some of your questions have been really poignant about that. And it's disappointing that as a representative, you can't just call it in. I'm here. I will continue to be accessible and available, share my opinions, and most importantly, listen. So I think you have a stark difference to make this November, and I think it's quite obvious what the better choice is, especially for the business community and for our community in general.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you.
And as a chamber, right, we absolutely want to, admonish everybody out there, get online, make sure you're registered to vote. As she said, this election is going to make a huge difference. And so it's very important that you engage in the democratic process as a business owner, as a resident, if you want to have an influence on education, healthcare, right? There's so much more to a platform than just business, but as our chamber with a limited amount of time, that's our focus for today. So once again, thank you, Beth.
I appreciate it.
And we'll look forward to hosting you on a chamber chat, and also Candace Valenzuela, so we can get, a very clear picture of your platform for economic recovery and allow you more time to speak on the topic.
Thank you.
Once again, I'm Executive Director Grace Spees with the Farmers Branch Chamber of Commerce. One of our definitions of success for the year is to be the voice of small business to government. This time right now is paramount in history of America, that we get out and vote, that we represent the business community, and that we keep the economy moving forward. Once again, please make sure you are registered to vote. You can go to votetexas.gov to register. Also, be sure to follow us on the Farmers Branch Chamber of Commerce. Both Facebook, LinkedIn, will also be on Twitter, and this broadcast will be available for viewing later. Thank you for your time today, and have a great day.